That's great, Sean. I'm Joan. I'm an alcoholic, and it seems I'm so happy. There's so many new people. My gosh, I don't know what this dinosaur is doing here. Uh, but I'm just an example, good or bad, that this program works. And through Zoom, I've got a whole new life because I can go all over the place. Even though I've been here for a long time, and it's just made it accessible to me to go. I can go any place. I'm in San Diego. And so Sean calls me, wants me in New York. I haven't left my house, but it's wonderful. So it's great for me. Date of my last drink is June 15th, 1957. Now that's 63 years, almost 64 years sober. And I was 25 years old. Now in those days, 25 was very, very young. And nowadays it's, what took you so long? People coming in lots earlier than that, but not in my day, not in the 50s. Because when I got here, the people that were here were like 45 and 50 years old. And so there was me and then there was them. And so I had this legitimate, what I call legitimate reason why I wasn't an alcoholic. See, I looked for all the differences. Because you see, when I came here, it wasn't because I had a drinking problem. It was because my mother asked me, what did I want to go to see what helped her. So I came to see how my mother was getting sober. It was unbelievable. I didn't believe that it was possible. My grandfather had just died of alcoholism, and my mother had come near to dying at the same time. But she survived, and that's how I got to my first meeting. I was just 24 years old then, and I had my first drink when I was 12. I was the kind that when I had that drink, all I can tell you is that it's just like all my problems were solved. Up until then, it was like I didn't fit, didn't belong. Nobody loved me. Nobody cared. My parents were divorced when I was 4 years old. All these things, it was all everybody's fault because I felt the way I did. It was all they and them did it to me, and I blamed everybody. I did that a long time after I was sober because I didn't know any different. I couldn't get it. It was so indoctrinated into that thing. It's somebody else's fault. And so it took me quite a while to realize that any of my problems were part of my doing. And but I started drinking at 12, and I consider myself a periodic daily drinker. And as you know, at least in those days, you couldn't just get alcohol, so somebody else had to get it for you. The weekend gatherings at friends' home and stuff like that, and I had no capacity whatsoever. I just wanted a drink, really, to just kind of make me feel a little bit better, to shut off the head, shut off all the thinking, shut off all the feeling. And the only thing is, it worked, but I drank too fast. I drank so fast that by the time I had the fourth drink, I had overshot the mark, and I was done. I was done. And so in a half an hour, I was over in the corner, drunk, throwing up, whatever. And so that's how I didn't get in any trouble, is what I think. Nobody messes with you when you're, over in the corner somewhere. So that's kind of how I went through junior high school. And so 15, 16 years was a bad time. I never saw drugs, don't know anything about drugs, no funny cigarettes, never saw them. If somebody handed me something, I'm sure I would have done it. But this is what it was alcohol was all I knew, all I ever saw. So I left school when I was 16. I didn't finish, 10th grade, 11th grade. And I just couldn't do it. I just wanted to get out. I wanted to go someplace else. I always wanted to be someplace else. But the older crowd, I always wanted to go with the older crowd. I didn't like where I was. And so the only trouble is that when I got a couple of days after I was 17 years old, I got married. And in 5 years, I had 4 children. Now, this was my situation. Now, the funny part of this, I think this is funny. A friend of mine heard this woman speaker on tape, didn't know what her name was or anything, but he thought of me. He said, this woman said that she was drinking. She had a blackout. She came out of her blackout and found out she was married and had 7 children. I said, that's how I felt. I don't know how all that happened. I don't know how I got from here to there or there to here or whatever. I just always felt that way. I don't know how that all happened. But anyway, I was left with these 4 children to raise by myself. And so this is where I was when I started to hate my mother, my grandfather, and all that sort of thing. And So what I was drinking at night. So I didn't drink during the daytime, and because I knew if I drank, I got drunk. And so I put the children to bed, and of course, as I went by, I put them to bed earlier and earlier. But anyway, so I could drink at night. See, and so what I did is I had this. I had a glass drink in one hand and a cigarette in the other, and then I played the music. Now I don't all of you done all this stuff, but when you drink, you got to have music. Now it's got to be a certain kind of music. Now my two examples of that is I hope you know these people. I don't know, but anyway, Judy Garland entitled "Alone," and Frank Sinatra entitled "No One Cares." Now those are the kind of songs I listen to night after night while I'm hating all these people, and they did all this to me. That's pretty pathetic stuff. It's pretty pathetic stuff. And so that's where I was when my mother called and said, would I like to go to see what helped her? And I said, well, I hadn't been out of the house for 7 years. I don't know what's going on. And here I'm getting invited someplace. Nobody asked me any place, because from school, I had no friends. Married, you don't have any friends. So here I am. I don't know anybody. There's, TV, no, that kind of stuff. I didn't know what's going on in the world. I don't know anything. So this is where I was then. And so that's just kind of an idea where I started. And I was, my last drink, as I said, I was 25 years old. And as I said, 63 years plus ago. And but the little thing what they did with me, that because I don't have a lot of time, so I'm just trying to kind of choose what things that I've got lots of little stories that depends on how much time I have, where I put these little stories in, in my sobriety, and so much of it's in service and things that Alcoholics Anonymous has done for me. It's just, well, it took care of me forever. And when I went to the meetings, when I started going to that first meeting, the reason I came back to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous was because a woman came to me and she said, keep coming back. And I thought they liked me. I didn't know they say it to everybody, but see, I just needed somebody like me. And I was just so happy that I thought, I'm going back. That's why I came back to AA meetings, because they were nice to me. So I kept going for a year. I kept going, and I wasn't an alcoholic because I was too young, way too young. And a couple of women that I'd hear talk to, one said she'd been arrested 85 times in the corner of 5th and Town in Los Angeles. And another one said she'd been married 8 or 9 times, and one of her husbands was Al Capone's. One of her husbands was one of Al Capone's men. Now I didn't relate to any of that stuff, so I'm looking for all the differences. And sometimes they'd say how they felt, and I thought, my gosh, I felt like that. I didn't know anybody in the world felt like that, like alone, and they didn't fit and belong and all that sort of thing. But then they lose me. See, they lose me. You find out how old they were. So old, old people. I don't know how you feel, but I mean, 45 was pretty. Well, my mother was 42. My grandfather died at 65. I mean, they're pretty old people. And so anyway, I might tell you what, I'm having a little problems here, so I get a little hyper. And see what happened a year ago when they shut down. I thought I was done. I thought I was done, because a year before I'd had to stop speaking, and I spoke a lot, all over, out of town, out of the States, and all those flying, did all kinds of stuff. It was very, very great, very exciting, a lot of fun and all that. But all of a sudden, a year before the shutdown, I got this breathing problem. All of a sudden, I couldn't stand up and talk. I just couldn't. I couldn't do it. I had to sit down. So for a year, I just went to meetings. That was fine. I mean, that's just so I could go to meetings and see my friends, and I could still drive, and I still drive. And so I went to meetings, and I was just fine. I could do anything I wanted to do as long as I was sitting down, and driving, whatever. But so when this happened, and somebody insisted I learned Zoom, and I didn't want to. Well, I didn't want to. I didn't think I could teach. They couldn't teach me. They couldn't teach me. I mean, nobody could come to my house or anything. And okay, see, one of the reasons was the shutdown brought attention to the fact that I'm elderly. I didn't know that. I didn't know I was. In Alcoholics Anonymous, you don't talk about age. You don't talk about that. See, I was doing fine till they told me that. I'd never been elderly before a year ago. So anyway, so they taught me over the phone how to do this. And so then I started getting to my meetings that I was see my friends, and I get to do that, and that's fine. And pretty soon I'm following my other friends, because I hadn't talked to a meeting for a year. And so I started following them around where they're speaking and listening to them. And pretty soon I'm here and all over the different states and following people around. And then they start calling me and inviting me to speak different places. I've been to about 10 different countries besides all over the United States. And I haven't left my house. That's wonderful. I'm a whole new person. I've gotten, so this happened to me once before in sobriety, that I got young again. It was when I was 65 years old, and I was 40 years sober, and I fell into a job that I thought I was so old and all that. And it was a tour director for a bus company that we went all over the different Western states and 5 days at a time and things like that. It was great because I thought I was so old, but the people that we'd pick up at the different pickup places, they were 70, 80, 90 years old hopping on the bus. And I was the youngest one in the whole bunch. And I got young really quick. And I had a great time because we had a journey. I was more happy with the journey we were on. I wasn't so much interested in the destination, but the journey. And that's what we get on, is in Alcoholics Anonymous, we have this journey. And I've had quite a journey. And if I could give you my journey and give you all the joys that I've had, I wouldn't do it, because you got to have your own journey, So that's what we're all on, a day at a time, is this journey. And so I will tell you a little bit how they tricked me. I don't know how. Some of the people here are a little bit new, and I don't want to scare you off, but I mean, they do trick you here. And I didn't want to get sober. I didn't intend to get sober. That didn't intend for that to be my last drink. And I don't care what your attitude is. See, I believe that if this was possible to be born selfish, self-centered, and with a rotten attitude, that was me. From any memory I have of as a child, that's how I was. And that's how I treated people too. And not a pretty picture. So anyway, so for some reason, they said, okay, for 30 days now, you gotta wash ashtrays and wash cups. And I thought to myself, I don't want to do that. That's work. I don't like to work. I mean, I forget about the 4 little babies that I have. By the way, that by that time when I got sober, that they were 2, 3.5, 5, and 7 years old. Now, you can't stay sober with that kind of a problem. I had no money, never had a job, all this stuff, And so anyway, so I thought to myself, okay, 30 days, I could do 30 days, but then that's up, I'm going to drink. So, okay, the 30 days is up. Then they said, okay, for the next 30 days, you're going to make coffee. And I thought to myself, I don't want to do that. But I was afraid they wouldn't let me come back if I said no. And I needed to be, this is the only friends I felt like I'd ever had. And how nobody ever criticized me in any manner, before I had that last drink, when I was come to meetings drinking, they'd pick me up, and whether I was drunk or whatever, nobody ever said anything about you can't come or you can't stay in the meeting. They never said anything like that. They're always looking after me. I know now. But anyway, so I don't know if you know how many jobs they can give you, in Alcoholics Anonymous. They call them service jobs. Oh God, I didn't, I'll tell you what I called it. But anyway, so every 30 days they get this new job for me to do. And I just thought, well, when this is over, I'm going to drink. It lasted about a year. I'm just guessing somewhere around a year. I'm still doing these 30-day commitments and have to do them. And then, and I didn't drink. So I'm saying just temporary. I didn't mean to get sober. I didn't mean to stay sober. I was temporarily, sometimes I think with 63 years, I've been temporarily sober. But anyway, so what happened? The miracle was when about a year, they elected me secretary of a meeting where I was. See? And so that made that's a whole different ballgame. I mean, now Alcoholics Anonymous needs me. And now, now I'm important, I'm in charge. And it was a big speaker meeting. We all had just speaker meetings, 8:30 to 10 at night, no breaks, you don't hold hands and say the Lord's Prayer, none of that stuff. And it was just, this is the way you do it. Because people would come in those days, it was a life or death thing, Nobody just went in and out. There's no recovery homes, no rehab places. There was one woman's recovery home in Los Angeles, one men's in San Bernardino. That's all. It was either the jail or sanitarium or the cemetery. That's all there was, nothing. So anyway, this is what happened to me, and I don't want to get involved in another story or anything, but be of more interest to some of the new ones. It's just that this is what does it, and I don't care my opinions. I have lots of opinions, but my opinion is it doesn't matter what your attitude is, just so you don't drink. No matter what, you don't drink, and you just have to know, because I don't often even think to say, when I say don't drink, I haven't had anything that affected me from the neck up. None of the stuff. I just never gotten any of those things. But anyway, no matter what, you don't drink, and you go to meetings. They gave me a book because I didn't have the money to buy a book. It was $3.50. So they gave me a book, said read the book, go to meetings, and don't drink. And that's the way it was. And because we had no cell phones, phones were long distance, so we didn't have I could afford to have a phone. And so anyway, you'd come to my house, or I'd see them at meetings or things like that, and it was still different in those days, a lot different in those days. And then I lived in Los Angeles and eventually came down to San Diego here. So I've been down here since 1974, a long time. But sometimes people will ask me, did I know Bill Wilson? And I said, well, of course, And what my story is that a friend took me. I didn't know what international was. Every 5 years, we have an international convention. People come from all over the world in different states and things that'll have it every 5 years. Well, this time it was in Long Beach, California, and I'm in the Pasadena area at the time, so it isn't that far. And this friend drove me down to the Sunday morning meeting, and we heard the speaker, and we got in line to thank the speaker. Got up and shook his hand. It was Bill Wilson, and so that's my Bill Wilson story, And I shook his hand on July 4th, 1960, and so the stories I have for international conventions, the things that have happened with that is so exciting. And now that I'm getting on up in there, the old timer stuff is it's kind of fun now, because where I live anyway, we have a sobriety countdown somewhere in some of our events. You know what those are. Everybody stands up, and then they find out by setting them down who's one of the most. They see me come in a room now, and they say, "Oh well, now we know who's going to get it today." So it's taking kind of the fun out of it. But anyway, international is a different story. It's great fun. It's great fun. But Sean, I think I'll leave it open to everybody else. I just want everybody to know that the reason I'm still sober is I remember what it was like. I remember I got lots and lots of stories. You want to hear just drinking stories. We all drank. We all know we paid the price to get here, and some was easy, some wasn't so easy. But the thing of it is, this is a simple program for complicated people. It really is. There's really nothing to it. All those things I thought were stupid, all those sayings that they have, one day at a time, and don't drink no matter what. I just thought it was kind of dumb, because I had all these problems. That's all I thought about myself. Everything was around me, everything. And but it's amazing how little by little things get better. Promises come true. Every promises come true. I mean, I just as it should be. At my age, I just turned 89 years old. Now that's old. That's old. But I can do anything. I go any place. I mean, but I don't leave my house. I'm a happy camper. I can go all over. And I speak 5 times a week, maybe, but I go to 20 meetings too. It isn't all I do. I go to lots of meetings. That's how I'm happy. I'm not isolated at all. I'm not isolated at all. Don't see anybody, but you're my family. You're my meeting. As long as I get 25 people, I spoke at a meeting not too long ago. By the numbers down there, almost got to 600 people. That doesn't matter. I got 25 in front of me. I've got people right there, and that's all I think about. And it's just been great. You get used to it, after a while. But Sean, I'm just I get a little wound up, and I can just keep going, So I better quit while I'm ahead here. So thank you so much for having me come here today.